So I put out a poll yesterday to see what video I should make today. I wonder how it did. No. You guys are really gonna make me deal with comments like this again? Like this one? Like this? Like this? Like this? Like this? Like, I feel like you guys don't care about my mental health anymore. Like, I really feel like you just want to see if you can watch me, like, jump off a bridge. Well, if it's what all y'all want, I guess it's gonna have to be what all of y'all get. Hello, what is... Oh, wait, nope, hold on. All right, so 1 second. Wait, playing in 2022. 2022. Hello, what is up, guys? Evil Duos Arm here today, back with another Black Desert video. Today we're going to be looking at the state of Black Desert in 2022, covering what I think are the most important aspects in any MMORPG, and what the game has to offer in these categories. Despite the jokes at the start, I did read through all of the comments on my video from last year, and I was politely pointed towards areas that I could have improved, so I'll do my best to structure this video a bit differently. Again, same as last year, I still make lots of Black Desert videos, so you're probably going to think this is sponsored content, but I promise you it's not. I don't do sponsored content, I'm not even a partner with the game. You can click through the partner tab here on their website and you will not find Evil Do Us Harm. In fact, there's a search button, Evil Do Us Harm. Spelled my own name wrong. Nothing. I'm not a partnered creator. I'm just a fellow MMORPG lover who wants to help you decide if this game is right for you. If you do end up deciding to try the game out though, consider checking out my channel if you have questions. I've got hundreds of guides specifically targeted towards newer players, so hopefully would be able to help you. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. And let's start off with what I think are the key 11 aspects to an MMORPG. Those being first, the character creation and class selection options, the new player experience, the story and questing experience, the game world graphics and user interface, combat system in the game, gear progression, the PvE content, so dungeons, grinding, life skills, those types of things, the PvP content, so ranked, open world PvP, structured group type content, the cash shop, and the endgame or gameplay loop, the reason you keep coming back to the game. So we're going to go through each of those different things. I'll give you an overview, and then I'll compare it to the 2021 version of this review, so that you know if anything has changed since the last time you watched it. And we're going to start off with character creation. Now, Black Desert is often jokingly called Barbie Simulator, and that's for good reason. The character creator lets you adjust pretty much anything you could possibly want, from the obvious body sliders down to the speckle pattern and opacity in an individual eye. There's tons of facial morphs for everything. However, there are some limitations to hairstyles, especially when compared to other games in the category, and some hairstyles are class locked, but you can adjust the base ones with some sliders, so you might be able to get the look that you want. Speaking of class locks though, that's something you're going to have to get used to. There are now 24 classes in the game, and each one is gender locked with more female classes than male. Many classes do have a male and female counterpart, but the two classes themselves do not play the same. For example, Ninja and Kunoichi, the Ninja Awakening used 6 magical katanas defying the laws of physics, and the Kunoichi uses a hula hoop. On the topic of Awakening, the super majority of classes have 2 class branches to choose, Awakening and Succession, each with a unique playstyle. You can swap between these freely at a skill instructor these days, a recent change from the cash shop only item in the past. Now if you're watching this after watching the 2021 version, the only change here is the addition of a few new classes. Now moving on to the new player experience, after you get through character creation and class selection, the game is going to drop you off into its new tutorial mode that just released a few months ago. It's designed to better introduce you to the backstory of the game while teaching you the basics. As soon as you get out of that though, as a new player you're probably going to be overwhelmed by the UI and all of the stuff that's going on. There is a UI edit option and you can fix the window however you'd like, and you're also probably going to want to mess around with the settings menu because you got to disable all sorts of pop-ups that are flying up. But once you get through all of that, Black Desert does have a pretty strong new player experience now. They have dedicated servers for new players where forced PvP is disabled, and they have strong catch-up mechanics, allowing you to learn the game or just enjoy the game world. There are also season servers which rotate every few months, providing rapid gear progression up to just below the soft cap level, with new quest lines added after that to reach the soft cap. I'll talk about those a bit more in the gearing section though. If you watch this after the 2021 version, the new tutorial is about the only real addition, along with some streamlining on season servers to make them a bit easier overall. You can pretty much reach the seasonal gear cap in a week on them now. I did it in 5 days this season. So significantly faster progression. Moving on to questing and story content in the game, Black Desert recently put out 2 major updates in the last 9 months dedicated entirely to this. First, the Mountain of Eternal Winter update added in an alternate starting location for a new player as well as an entire new map region, and a fully voice-acted and cutscene including storyline. This is the first time one was ever in Black Desert, and it's a huge improvement. A few months later, the normal starting location also received a fully voice-acted and cutscene including storyline. So now both starter areas and storylines have voice acting and cutscenes. As a non-objective aside, I think they did a really good job on these. They built really believable characters and ones you'll probably remember. If you do end up playing, ask the world chat what they think about Lando. I'm sure you're going to get some very polarizing opinions. But beyond those two areas, the rest of the story is a bit more lackluster. There are crossroads that will ask you to pick one of a few different quests, but the decision doesn't really change anything in the game world. You'll find yourself just picking the fastest one to have to click through the skip dialogue button less. All in all, there's probably about 50 to 60 hours of main story content in the game to play through, and you can do that at any time, since as soon as you get through the tutorial, you're free to roam anywhere in the Black Desert world you want, meet up with your friends, or really just do whatever you want. As far as side quests are concerned though, there are literally thousands. Most are entirely skippable, but there are achievements for doing tens of thousands of quests in total. If you are looking to power level, side quests are one of the fastest ways, and some side quests do have nice rewards, but otherwise most are entirely ignored in a typical playthrough. Now comparing this section back to 2021, major changes are the addition of the new voice-acted storylines and the new expansion region, which was a free update, the Mountain of Eternal Winter update. And I can't think of a better place to say this, but every expansion pack since I started playing the game has been given away for free with Black Desert. So now moving on to the game world, graphics, and user interface, I don't think I have much to say. You're probably watching this video because you saw how beautiful the game is and you saw how cool the combat looks in somebody's clip somewhere on the internet. The game world is absolutely massive. It takes well over an hour to go from end to end. There's an entire ocean filled with water, desert filled with sand, forest with trees, mountains with snow, day-night cycle. It really does feel like a different world. I think what I do want to talk a bit on is the user interface, because the majority of changes from the 2021 video happened here. As already said, you can adjust the UI as you see fit, but more importantly, inventory management has been brought into the 21st century in the game. You can now search inventories of all of your characters and storages at once, save map locations for recall, batch delete items, item descriptions are on every single item telling you what it's used for and how to craft with it if it's a crafting item. The quality of life with these updates recently has put my channel out of business. No one needs to look up guides anymore when the game actually tells you how to use it, so huge improvements there. So that's all the boring stuff out of the way. Let's get into the core gameplay here, starting off with the combat. Again, you probably saw a sick advertisement or a stream of someone fighting something, and I'm here to tell you in fact that the combat in this game is awesome. Like I said earlier, 24 classes, most with 2 combat styles, gives you a lot of variety. Features like gear tagging allow you to re-roll to the Flavor of the Month class whenever you want, or if you just want to try out a different class. And that Evil Duosarm guy has a leveling guide that can get you a new character to the soft cap level of 61 in just under 10 hours, unlocking all your skills. So if you're ever bored of combat, you can create a new character, level it, tag the gear over, and be playing something entirely new within a couple of days. More specifically, BDO combat is more combo focused, with key inputs and mechanics that might remind you more of a fighting game rather than an MMORPG. Things like walking backward to block, or long combo chains in PvP focused on keeping the opponent stunned for the duration. Even in PvE, most classes have a set of skills that work very well when chained together, and some of these combinations require more effort depending on the class and location. For example, the Valkyrie right now can grind in low-level areas by holding down 2 buttons, while other classes will require you to run a whole myriad of buttons and button presses to achieve similar results. Now, the biggest change since the 2021 video is that the majority of older classes have received massive overhauls in the October and November 2021 updates that bring them more in line with the more recent releases. So new skills, new animations, new damage multipliers, new effects, and pretty much everything for the older classes. Now, after you've done some combat, you're probably going to want to get into gear progression, and that's what we're going to talk about next, and there's really no nice way to put it. The gear enhancing system in Black Desert is horrible. Once you get to like the mid-late stages of enhancing, if the gear fails an upgrade, it'll drop a level. It'll also reduce in max durability, but you do gain a slight percentage increase to your next attempt. However, to get the piece back up to the stage you were at, you need to send it over to another character. That character needs to do an attempt at the upgrade. If it succeeds, you can send it back over to the first character and try with that enhanced percentage. If it fails again, you gotta send it back. If it fails after that, you gotta send it to a third character. A lot of inventory management for the upgrading and enhancing system in this. Plus, if you do this with accessories, it's even worse. If you fail the upgrade, the accessory just blows up and breaks. You don't get to use it at all, it's gone. So you can lose billions of silver in a matter of seconds of enhancing. Of course, you could also make billions of silver too, but it's a really painful experience, especially for a newer player. They have added some convenience over the years in the Nadir's band, as well as things like cronstones or a season server. But if you want to go about your upgrading in Black Desert the classic way, you're going to be very disappointed and probably quit the game. Now, a much better option for gear progression has been added instead, and it's to use the new questlines that were added with the NPC Jatina that allow you to take your season server gear, or any gear that's at the TET stage, which you'll need more when you start playing, but season server gear, something I talked about earlier in this video, do some weekly quests, and it'll just give you the piece of gear after you feed it some money and materials, of course. But it removes the RNG chances entirely, so you don't have to deal with that system. A second option is just to buy every single thing off of the marketplace. Most items are in stock on the market, some stuff you might have to put a pre-order in for, but you can gear up your character entirely without having to touch this RNG system. The video last year received a lot of anger towards this enhancement system in general, and that's why I really want to stress you do not have to touch it. You can use it if you want, but the game has been changed a lot over the last few years to make it so that it is not a requirement. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is going to be PvE content, and I'm going to break it down into 3 categories. So the open world PvE, or grinding, dungeons, and life scaling. The Black Desert team has been trying really hard to keep their one world dream alive almost to a fault, and it's kind of reflected in the content available in this game. Rather than your typical MMORPG cycle of queuing up with your friends to do some dungeons and complete your daily challenges, then swap into another character and doing it again and again and again and again until you've built up enough resources to make an upgrade, Black Desert takes a completely different approach. The idea in this game is that everything is in one world, and you're in a sort of competition for resources with other players. This means instead of doing a dungeon for a rare drop to sell, you'll go to an open world area filled with tons of enemies that all drop a small amount of money when killed, plus a very low chance of dropping some rarer items. The idea being that if you kill thousands of these enemies per hour, you'll accrue some wealth and drops, and can use that money to buy upgrades off the market, to fight stronger enemies, to get more money, to repeat the cycle. Historically, these areas were typically solo, and again the idea being that you're fighting against others for the limited resource. Recently, however, they've begun to step away from this mentality with the release of 2 PvEVP open world areas that you can enter with a party and face a boss at the end after some puzzles, the closest thing to a dungeon we have in the game, and additionally, more multiplayer zones are being added into the game, so multiplayer grinding zones where you and your friends can team up in these open world areas to compete for resources with other teams of players. And finally, they have added a 1-hour harassment-free grinding button. We'll touch more on it in the PvP section, but since the idea of the game is limited resources, eventually someone is going to come and try to kill you to take whatever you're doing. This feature gives everyone 1 hour a day of solo gameplay in many of the most popular spots, allowing you to relax and not worry about getting killed by others. It's an awesome new feature, especially if that's one of the reasons why you quit the game back in the day. Also, one more thing to add, because I don't really know where to put this one, but there are world bosses that spawn in the game. You can go and kill them with a bunch of people. They're server-based, and the whole server tries to kill the boss. Now, moving on to the life scaling side of the game, which is my favorite part of it, the game offers a ton of options, many of which interact with each other. For example, gathering or hunting deer, and then you can cook it into meals and sell those on the marketplace or to NPCs. You could purchase workshops, hire workers, send them to cut down trees yourself as a supplement, have them make stuff out of the wood, sell it to vendors. Or you even could just build a boat and sell trade goods between different islands to make money. There's a ton of options, and generally speaking, it's a more relaxing experience than the PvE grinding or PvP, and again, is my preferred method of playing the game. Now, as far as major changes since 2021, there are quite a few. So again, there were the class reworks, which changed a lot of stuff in the meta for PvE, and you might find a different class you enjoy more now. Also, with the addition of private grinding zones, it makes it a lot easier for a casual player just to jump in the game and play and have some fun. The addition of the 2 dungeons I mentioned a minute ago brings some different content into the game, but in all truth, I have not tried either of them, so I don't really know if they're any good. Also recently, most beginner open-world PvE areas received massive income buffs, making some spots even comparable to the latest game areas as far as income per time spent. Like to the point where top-tier players are going to these new player areas because it makes them better money than the other spots. Also, life skills received a buff in income per unit time, however, it was not as strong as the buffs to the PvE combat side of things, but still substantial income buffs across the board. Alright, so I think that gives you a pretty good overview of PvE content. Now let's take a look at PvP. And before we get too much further into it, I want to stress that I am a PvTree player, not a PvP player. So a lot of this is outside looking in and limited gameplay experience of my own. However, as far as I see it, there are 3 main modes of PvP, the first one being open world PvP. So as mentioned in the PvE section, the game's idea is that you have limited resources and everyone is fighting over them. At any time, you could go out of your way and kill someone to take the spot that they're currently in, or someone could try to kill you. But beyond the duels and gankfest of that open world PvP, you also have more structured large-scale PvP events, such as Node Wars or Red Battlefield. Red Battlefield features like team deathmatch and domination game modes, so it's kind of like your Call of Duty game modes that you're used to, just queue up, go in, and fight against other people. Node Wars and Sieges, on the other hand, are a bit more defined and structured, so you'll have guild versus guilds, alliance versus alliance, it's in the open world, you're fighting over territory and control of the map, and it's kind of like server-based. Gaining control will provide you bonuses for your group holding that region until the next war period when it's contested again. The final PvP mode is a recent addition, and it's the Arena of Solaire. This is the ranked game mode that people have been asking for since Black Desert ever came out. It features teams of 3 that currently cannot be pre-mades, so you'll queue up and be paired with a random team in the 3v3 combat mode. Now, compared to these other PvP game modes, gear is normalized and selected on entry, so you pick from a given set of gear. Depending on your ranking at the end of the season, you're awarded rewards, and in general, it's a well-received addition to the game. Now, compared to PvE combat, PvP combat is going to feel more like a fighting game than a classical MMORPG. You're constantly going to be using movement abilities while you're fishing for a crowd control, trying to defend yourself from stuns or things like that coming back at you, and eventually if you land one, you'll go and execute a combo to hopefully kill your opponent. Gear is not normalized in PvP other than the Arena of Solaire and some Node Wars, so for example, if you get caught by somebody while you're out fishing, you very well might get one shot. There's no penalty for being ganked in the open world from PvP though, other than the loading screen to respawn at the closest safe zone. Now next up we have the cash shop, and my video last year got roasted for my opinion on it, so I thought I'd just do it different this year. Based on the comments, there's basically 4 different definitions that people kept putting out, and I'm going to pick those 4, run it down the line, and tell you yes or no for those. So hopefully you don't yell at me in the comments again. The first definition that was out there was, pay to win as if the game has a cash shop. So, Black Desert does have a cash shop, and therefore is pay to win. The second definition that was out there was that there is a cash shop in a game that provides bonuses that cannot be obtained in the game by regular gameplay. So Black Desert's cash shop has outfits, pets, maids, tent, inventory expansions, removed risk from enhancing, and a lot more available to it. And all of those provide some form of bonus to a character that cannot be obtained outside of events or special quests in Black Desert. Since you're not going to be doing those events or special quests all the time, Black Desert is in fact pay to win. The third definition that came through is basically the same as the previous one. The cash shop offers items that provide bonuses that cannot be obtained in-game, the key difference of by regular gameplay. Because Black Desert does feature events every single month that provide different free things like pets, outfits, maids, inventory expansions, enhancement boosts, all sorts of other stuff that is also available on the cash shop, the game is not pay to win because if you play for a long enough period of time, you eventually will have everything that you could have wanted. This definition aligns more with a pay to convenience kind of situation. If you're willing to wait, you can eventually get what you need. The fourth definition that came up was that the cash shop sells direct gear upgrades that are physically better than what can be obtained in-game. Now, the cash shop does sell enhancement protection, however, you cannot buy, for example, a better sword than is available to anyone else in the game. So, by that definition, the game is not pay to win. And that's all I'm going to cover in this part, so get your haterade ready in the comments. Now, the final thing that I want to talk about that I didn't cover in last year's video is the endgame loop, or what's your typical day like in Black Desert once you get through the main story and whatnot. And honestly, Black Desert is unlike any MMO you have ever played. Since there really isn't a daily quest system like in other MMORPGs, there really isn't any guidance on what to do. You need to think of Black Desert as a genuine MMORPG, massively multiplayer online, role-playing game. You choose your path, you play your own role, you do what you want, while other people do their own thing. So do you want to be the savior of the sands and rid the Valencian desert of bandits for months? You can do that. Do you want to be a humble hunter-gatherer in the fields of Odalita? You can do that. Do you want to become a pirate and sink other people's boats? You can do that. Do you want to decorate your house with furniture you crafted yourself? Go for it. Do you want to move up the ranked PvP leaderboard or create a massive guild for PvP and take over regions of the map? You can do that. There's so many things you can do, and I think that's the biggest pro and con of the game. The endgame is that there is no endgame. You have to make it yourself. This lack of direction tends to upset a lot of people who feel overwhelmed thinking that they need to do everything the game offers. But again, you choose your own path and you can do any or all of the content available. As far as gear progression itself is concerned, each of these paths does have a max set of gear that can be obtained, but getting there will likely take years of your life, and there's plenty of content to do at every tier of gear. So if you enjoy the core gameplay of an activity, say hunting rhinos, then maxing out your gear isn't going to change your enjoyment, it's just going to change how much money you make per unit time. I say it during every one of my live streams, if the game you're playing begins to feel like a chore rather than a game, then you're no longer playing a game. Black Desert gives you a lot of options to mix up your gameplay if you ever get bored or feel like you're doing the same thing over and over, which is something a lot of MMORPGs can't say. But that's going to be it for my thoughts and opinions on the game's various core aspects. Again, I'm a content creator for this game. I've played it for years now. There's probably some bias in there. All in all, I really think Black Desert is worth checking out if you like the MMORPG genre. At the end of the day, it's $10 and usually goes on sale for 99 cents every few months, and probably like twice a year they just give away the game for free. So wait for a sale, wait for the next giveaway if you don't want to spend the full price. And if you can get past the initial new player experience, which I'm going to tell you is pretty tough right at the start with all this stuff on your screen, trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing, if you can get past that, then you're likely going to have at least 100 hours worth of fun in the game. Alright, so now let me have it. What do you think? Do you think I missed something? Did you expect me to say the game wasn't worth playing? Do you think that Black Desert doesn't have $10 worth of content in it? Let me know. If this video did help you to decide though, either way, let me know in the comments, because I do read all of the comments, right? And it helps me to make better videos going forward. So, like I said, I read the ones from last year's. I tried to adjust the video structurally. Any feedback is good feedback. And if you do end up deciding to stick around in the game and download it, please consider checking out my channel. I've got hundreds of guides, so hopefully they'll help you out on your adventure. Thank you all so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you at the next YouTube video right here on my channel, the next Twitch livestream every single Saturday and Sunday, or wherever I happen to see you. Sheesh! I think that's a record TTK for me on him. Holy.